Today, Twitchies, we jump right into the top 5 solo laners that have been bringing the heat over in the solo lane, guys. So make sure you hit the like button and subscribe and ring that bell for notifications, and let's jump right into it.
InCon's Top 5 Solo Lane Edition. Number 5.
Just hopping into our list at number 5 is going to be Sun Wukong. Sun Wukong has basically been a staple of the solo lane for as long as there has been a solo lane, and he always comes in and out of the meta just depending on what exact items are being built right now in the solo lane and if they're really favoring a more ability-based solo laner, which of course Sun Wukong is. So with the kind of prominence right now with the Blackthorn hammer builds, you're seeing a lot of Pridvins, full 40% CDR cooldown builds coming out of the solo laners. Maybe they're rocking mystical mails for a little bit of bonus damage, some Genji's guard, all sorts of stuff like that. Wukong has come back very heavily, especially because Warrior's Axe is also the prominent solo lane item. In fact, basically the only starter item that you see over in the solo lane is gonna be that Warrior's Axe. When you transition that into the late game and you start getting those huge pokes out of your cudgel, because cudgel can super easy poke that from far away, you get that sustain off of it. All of a sudden you can see why Sun Wukong is finding himself in the meta. As far as the laning phase goes, his cudgel is really easy clear, and it's also not interruptible. A lot of really good gods historically in the solo lane, their weaknesses have been that they can have their clear stopped, like somebody like a Guan Yu goes for the Tallow Assault and it can be interrupted out of it. Sun Wukong doesn't have that problem. He's got the guaranteed lane clear with this one, plus he's got a bunch of CC in his kit, and he is an extremely safe solo laner as well, having both the bird form and the ulti somersault for the CC immunity, healing, and the ability to just chillax, relax, and not have to be in the fight, and that's why Sun Wukong has made the list at number 5.
Number 4.
Speak of the devil, it's Guan Yu coming in at our number 4 solo lane spot. Guan Yu, I think it's pretty straightforward why he finds himself up here. As it turns out in Smite, healing is good. No matter how many times they nerf out of combat healing, no matter how many times they try to bring up the anti-heal items, as it turns out, having healing in your kit is just really, really, really strong. And so Guan Yu's ability to turn a team fight with his spam heals that basically have no cooldown really allow him to thrive right now in this meta. As far as his 1v1 goes over in the solo lane, his 1v1 is really strong because Tallow Assault is a crazy good ability for dishing out damage because of the protection shred on it. And then of course his ultimate has one of the highest, if not the highest, physical base damages in the game, which means that his 1v1 potential is actually extremely high over in the solo lane. You do have to be careful though of getting interrupted out of your Tallow Assault. The one part where Guan Yu kind of has a weakness is his ability to get interrupted out of Tallow Assault. If that happens, if you're going up against a god that's got a really easy interrupt for you, let's say you're going against an RDO who can just stun you right out of it, no problemo, doesn't have to aim it or nothing, then you might want to consider actually leveling up your Warrior's Will first. It is also a decent form of wave clear, helps you kind of get out of that laning phase, because where Guan Yu really thrives is that team fight. You full throttle W key with your ultimate right at the enemy in the back line. Lord forbid there's somebody that does not have a leap ability to get away from you, because simply dashing away from Guan Yu is never going to do, guys. And that's what brings Guan Yu up to our number 4 spot for the December STL rankings.
Number 3.
He seems to be everywhere nowadays. It's Achilles. Achilles coming in that number 3 slot for the top solo laners of December. Achilles is a god that's really doing well at all levels of gameplay. You're seeing him up in the SPL, you're seeing him in the STL, you're seeing him in casuals, you're seeing him in arena. He's pretty much everywhere right now. He is having a grand old time. He has tons of damage built into his kit, as well as of course a lot of movement with his 3 as well. For playing Achilles over in the solo lane, of course you want to make sure that you're leveling up that 3 first, because that 3 is going to give you better lane clear, because it requires you to hit a god the first time that you use it in order to get the second effect off. Or if you're playing him in the jungle, make sure you're leveling up that 1 first. The 1 is going to give you better jungle clear because you do not get to utilize that 3 2 times like you do over in the solo lane. But solo lane is mostly where we are seeing him thrive. That is where we are seeing him in the top 5. And a lot of that just comes down from the fact that his early game pressure in the lane is so strong because you take your shirt off and you get that extra power and that extra movement speed. And then as you transition into being more of a tanky solo laner, as you're getting into the later stages of the game, you put your shirt back on. That gives you a bunch of bonus HP, gives you a bunch of bonus protections. And of course, all of that scales so well with the items in the solo lane meta right now. We're talking Pridvins, we're talking Glad Shields, we're talking your Warrior Axe, all of that kind of stuff. The more health, the more protection you can get online, the better. And because he can get a bunch of baseline going that way, not only does it make you so much tankier, it also makes a lot of these items, the ones that actually work with this, that much more efficient and brings Achilles up into that number 3 slot.
Number 2.
Knocked out of her number 1 spot, but still gonna come in at number 2 on our top 5 solo laners, guys. It is Mulan. She just couldn't quite hold on to that number 1 spot that she managed to gain in November, but Mulan still one of the best solo laners that you can be playing right now. One really great thing about Mulan is that she very rarely gets banned because there's just not really room to ban her when you've got so many other really top tier gods to think about. Particularly, people tend to like go ban out the supports. They don't want to like go deal with like Geb and like your Moja and stuff, which means you're usually free over in the solo lane to pick kind of anybody you want, which means that Mulan is getting through all the time, and she doesn't really have any bad matchups, which is a huge reason why she ranks so high. There's no way to interrupt her out of her clear, and because of that buff that she got about a month ago with her abilities leveling up faster, it means that you're getting the extra hit on your 1 for the clear. It means you're getting the extra hit on your 2 for the lifesteal and the extra damage really quickly online. And that means that Mulan's power curve basically went from like the 20-minute marker that she had to wait for in order to get all of her abilities leveled up to like the 10-minute marker where she starts to get all of her abilities leveled up, which has made her an absolute force over in the solo lane because of her lane clear and her ability to 1v1 fight. Once she gets level 3 and has all 3 of her abilities, her ability to kill you in the lane is really high, which can also let her snowball. Quick tidbit about Mulan as well, also extremely strong against any god that has to use a channeled clear ability. So somebody like a Guan Yu with his Tallow Assault, you can pull him right on out of that Tallow Assault with your arrow, stop him from clearing. And she actually has a decent matchup into our number 1 god as well, our number 1 solo laner of December, which we'll get to right after this brief message from the sponsor of today's video, Raid Shadow Legends, which you can download using the description down below. Download Raid Shadow Legends for PC or mobile and complete the tutorial using the link in the description down below to help support the Twitchiest community trying to crowdfund another $1,000 for the Smite Twitchy League. And if you get in game and use code SEDEC21, you'll get a bunch of bonus goodies on top of the bonus goodies that you get for using our download link. So start playing today.
Number 1.
Taking the spot at number 1 for December, it's going to be Nike. So Nike has always been a strong solo laner. The one thing that she kind of struggles with is when Sunder is a super meta active, but Sunder has kind of been falling down by the wayside. We're starting to see a lot more defensive relics like Meditation be picked up, even beads and stuff like that over in the solo lane, Blink, which means there's less room for that Sunder. And if anything, there's only going to be 1 Sunder on the team. Support basically can't get it right now, which means you only have to worry about that 1 god having that Sunder in order to counter your ultimate. And if you can't counter Nike ultimate, she becomes a big problem, bigly fast. So one thing you have to keep in mind with the Nike is that she's giving out that passive to her entire team. So it's not just about Nike winning her lane, it's also about the effect that she gives out to everybody on her team. So she's helping out the duo lane, the mid lane, the jungle, everybody as soon as she starts to get that passive online without even necessarily being there. Kind of like a super jacked up Discordia style of passive. That is what Nike provides to her team. On top of that, of course, one of the best team fights in the entire game because of that giant shield, and with the prominence of Blackthorn Hammer in the meta, which gives you 400 HP. Nike ult starts giving you a huge amount of HP very early because, of course, that ulti shield is going to be scaling off of that total HP, which means the more HP you can get in your build faster, the more shield you're going to get. The more shield you have, the harder you are to kill Nike, the harder you are to kill. All of a sudden, you can see how she gets that #1 spot, guys. So with her ability to leap in for initiations, slam down a CC immune ulti that does a stupid amount of damage with a huge slow and a giant shield, Nike takes our #1 spot in the STL for December. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen, your top 5 solo laners, with Nike taking that top spot due to her ability not only to do fantastic in the laning phase and team fights, but her passive really helps everybody across the board do a whole lot better. And so she takes that #1 spot for December. Couple of honorable mentions though, to just a couple of guys that didn't quite make the list. Chalk didn't end up making the solo lane list. He was just off of it. Still a fantastic option for those of you that aren't super comfortable in the solo lane and you want to be able to just focus on, okay, I want to get my lane clear off. I don't want to fall too far behind in XP, and I still want to be able to show up in those team fights and have a presence. Chalk is still a wonderful option. And ever to the surprise, I think, of a lot of people, Odin not making the list. Odin is interesting. Odin reminds me a lot of Geb, actually, in that they are targets that get banned a lot. And so by the time that they're available to play, people aren't actually super comfortable playing them because they've been banned so often. So you're actually better off in this case going with the solo laner that you know than the solo laner that you don't. So even when Odin is getting picked, he's doing good, but not absolutely amazing, not top 5. Maybe Odin will finally be able to crack himself into that top 5 in January's top 5 solo laner, guys. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe. And of course, you can support the Twitchiest community by downloading Raid Shadow Legends and beating the tutorial using the description down below. Hope to see you in the next video, and as always, have a twitching day, y'all. Thank you for supporting the Twitchiest community. If you'd like to see more videos, make sure you subscribe to the channel and always hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss any of the upcoming videos. Thank you for all your support and have a twitching day, y'all.